Marcus. A tale of friendship, courage, deception and strife. Oh, and also old ladies. Chapter 3. I wish I could have pancakes every day. A round hour had passed, now with John passed out on the sofa. Beatrice had returned, cooked the bacon and put the spider outside under the porch. While she was in town she met her boss Jack, who was with his daughter Rose. Jack was very interested to hear about what Marcus's parents had found the night before and asked to be filled in. After eating breakfast and hearing all about how John's foolish little prank got himself a blooded nose, Beatrice and Jack told Rose and Marcus that they need to go talk about work at the lab. Rose, we want you to stay here and look after these two. You keep an eye on them, they get silly when they're left alone together. This wasn't a problem for Rose, her and the Marcus had been friends all their life and always looked out for each other. They were best friends at school. Marcus got bullied on his first day but Rose soon put a stop to that after handing out a couple of black eyes. A little smile pops onto her face and she chuckles a little. I know, I'll keep them in order. Pleased to hear it, Beatrice says, looking and sounding impressed with Rose. She goes on. If John wakes up and feels up to it, ask him to come to the lab and tell him I'm with your father. Soon after Jack and Beatrice leave, Rose and Marcus rush upstairs to drink lots of energy drinks and talk about conspiracies and other sneaky stuff like that. With Rose sitting at the end of the bed and Marcus at the other end under his blanket, Rose asks, "So what was you doing passed out, outside?" Marcus just repeats with uncertainty, "Passed out? Outside?" "Yeah." Sounding amazed Rose goes on. "Yeah, your mom was telling me Dad that she found you sleeping on the porch." After digging in his mind with Rose slowly pulling a face at him, Marcus suddenly jumps up out of his bed, making Rose jump too, then rushing downstairs, sees his dad, and soon returning with his bag. Marcus goes on to say, "I kind of remember taking these last night but nothing else." Marcus passes the camera, Rose's eyes widen seeing the picture of the stool. "Wow, where's that?" she says sounding excited. Rubbing his chin Marcus isn't really sure. "It's got to be behind the shed." Marcus knew he had always wanted to go behind there, imagining strange and mysterious things, deep in the woods. Rose's eyes light up. "Let's go tonight. We'll try and find the lamp. It looks so cool, just look at the rust and the flame, oh the blue flame." The night before Marcus would have jumped at a chance to explore anywhere in the dark, hoping to come face to face with a ghost or any kind of ghastly creature of the night. But after everything that has happened, his spirits were low and any ambitions of adventuring into the dark had faded away. With a wobbly and timid look on his face, "I don't think our parents would like that, and it's..." Rose interrupts snapping, "What? You would let me go alone and you clearly went out last night." Rose hated it when Marcus did cool stuff without her, and quite often got mad at him, because he would always keep his ideas to himself and would only tell her after he'd had his little adventures. Marcus really didn't feel up for going out into the woods at night time, even with Rose. Waking up not remembering about the night before can make you feel real uneasy, especially when your friend tells you that your parents found you passed out on the porch. Looking sick to say, Marcus speaks. "No, let's go today while the sun is bright." A tear drops from his eye. "Don't look at me like I'm crazy. A shadow tried to strangle me while I was taking a leak behind the shed." Rose's face screws up. "What?" But seeing the tears running and dripping from Marcus's eyes, Rose knew he was telling the truth, or at least believed he was. "Are you okay?" she asks. Marcus, taking a couple of seconds not to get any more upset, wipes his tears on his blanket and goes on to tell Rose more about the shadowy ball. A smile of fear and excitement grows on Rose's face. "Did you tell your mom and dad?" "No way, they would have thought I've gone crazy." Marcus grumbles, wondering why Rose would look so happy to hear his story of fright that it was darker than night. "Was it dark when you saw the darkness?" The darkness was what Rose had already named Marcus's terrifying foe. just minutes after hearing about it. No. Marcus answers. No. Snaps Rose, looking annoyed. So what difference does it make if we go out in the day? Blankly looking up into the corner of his ceiling, not being able to think of an answer before Rose gets all excited again. Come on please. I'll get me dad to let me sleep over. From the sounds of things, our parents will be at the labs at least until tomorrow. Marcus still trying to think of a good reason not to go, without sounding like a wimp. Rose pushes even more. Please, please. Jumping up and down on the bed. Please. Feeling a little cheered up, a bit of Rose's excitement finds its way into Marcus, and for the first time today he smiles. Scratching his head, watching Rose getting even more excited, Marcus comes up with a proposition for her. I'll ask my mom if it's okay if you stay. If she says yes, we'll go out in the dark, but only if you bring your Envis googles and let me wear them the whole time. Yes, deal. Rose interrupts. Hang on. Marcus pushes his voice back. I haven't finished. With a cheeky little grin on his face. I'm feeling extra hungry today and my feet are feeling all sore. So I'm going to need a big pile of pancakes and a foot massage. Rose's face drops after hearing foot massage. No way. I'll tidy your room and make pancakes, but I'm not going near your feet. My room is tidy. Yeah, well then when it's not. Marcus ponders over Rose's counter-offer for a little while. Well, I have been thinking about moving my room around and making a desk and board for evidence and detective stuff like the one Dime has. You could help me with that? Detective Dime, he's got the time to solve the crime. Dime was the lead character in Marcus and Rose's best TV program. It's been going for over 60 years now. Wasn't bad back in my day, but can't say I think much of the new actor. The two spent all the hours of the weekend watching it. They even borrowed my old black and white DVDs of the first season, which I still haven't got back. Anyway, enough about that. You can catch it on Channel 9 at 9 on Tuesdays and Fridays. Already thinking of her own ideas to add to the desk. Before she can answer, Marcus can tell she agrees from the big smile on her face. So he tells her to run downstairs and make a start on the pancakes, as he's getting rather hungry. After sitting on his bed thinking of ideas, waiting for his pancakes, Marcus hears Rose whistling coming up the stairs with the smell of pancakes welcomely tingling his nostrils. Marcus crosses his legs and readies himself for them. Rose comes in backwards, pushing the door open with her butt, speaking in a posh English accent. Here's your pancakes, sir. She also puts down the mugs of hot chocolate, the ones Marcus and his dad didn't get around to drinking. I noticed that these had been left to go cold. I hope you don't mind? No, I'm glad you did. Marcus answers with a smile on his face. By the time Marcus looks up after cutting his first piece of pancake, Rose had already eaten hers and was gulping her drink down in one go. After slamming her mug down like she was playing some drinking game she had seen on a TV show, says, "Whoa, that was the best hot chocolate I've ever had." Just staring at Marcus for several seconds, with a smile on her face looking quite euphoric. Says, well, I was going to do something but I can't remember what it was now. Think I'll just go to sleep for a little while. Blankly watching Rose flop back and start snoring as soon as her head hits the pillow. Marcus starts thinking that Rose seems a bit strange. Before, when she was jumping up and down on his bed, she seemed a little more wild than she normally did. But the way she ate and drank before, that wasn't like her at all. Still not believing what he saw, Marcus checks under the bed for pancakes. Not that it would have been any less strange if she had thrown her pancakes under the bed. With no pancakes under the bed, Marcus's eyes sharply look up at Rose. What the hell is going on? Marcus thought to himself. A little thought popped into his head. Could what had happened the night before, the shadow behind the shed and Rose acting strange, all have something to do with what fell from the sky? Marcus makes some notes about his thoughts, hides them so Rose doesn't see them, and goes on to finish his pancakes and hot chocolate. Around 20 minutes later, Marcus is poking Rose saying, "Wake up, I spoke to my mom on the phone and you're right. Our parents are staying at work tonight. I asked if you could stay over. Marcus continues, looking a little nervous. They both said yes. Rose replies, rubbing her eyes. Who said yes? Our parents. My mom wanted my Uncle Jim to come and look after us, but he wouldn't be here till tomorrow, and I managed to get them to agree with letting us look after the house again. With a questioning look on her face, Rose asks, "So is my dad going to pop me home so I can grab some things?" "No, they have to stay at the lab. I did try saying that you kinda stink and that you should probably go home and have a bath, but my mom just said that you can have one here." Rose laughs a little and a big grin pops onto her face. "Why are you grinning so much?" Marcus asks. "Well, you wanted to use the Envis tonight." Still smiling, Rose replies. Fear starts creeping slowly into Marcus again. He wanted to say something like, "I doubt you'll be smiling later," but fear had already started its work on Marcus and he wasn't feeling cocky at all. Later on in the day, with little sunlight left, Marcus was rushing around in the shed, looking for extra torches and batteries. At least he was trying to rush. Being inside the shed made him nervous. Shears, rakes and even a lawnmower all hanging above his head. With the lawnmower blade staring right at him, Marcus can think only of the worst: decapitation, impalements and lots of other scary scenarios too gory to say, all flood his brains. Creeping over to the back of the shed with his head low, to the drawer with the torches, which had a cupboard on top full of heavy-looking tools and jars of rusty nails, all looking rather unsafe, Marcus tries the drawer. It doesn't open. He squints his eyes, yanks the drawer. The rumble of the cupboard above jolts through his body as shocking fear. The drawer is open. Marcus still stands, walking back into his room. "Hey, I found the torches and batteries," Marcus says to Rose, who was half in a giant trunk, with her head right at the bottom and her legs up in the air. "What are you doing in there?" Marcus says with an odd look on his face. All he hears is a bunch of muffled replies. "Half myth, half myth." Marcus enjoys the chance to finally get to laugh at someone else, for a change, and does so. "Half myth." Rose cries, kicking her legs in the air. "All right, calm down," Marcus says calmly, approaching Rose carefully, being very aware of her big boots. Grabbing hold of them and stepping up onto the trunk, Marcus pushes against the trunk with his feet, pulling Rose out. They both go flying into the air, then crashing onto the floor, piling up on top of each other. Marcus bangs his head in the same spots as from the night before and gives it a good rub. Rose just pops up onto her feet, saying, "I found it," holding a light ball cap in her hand, up in the air, which was a woolly hat with a spring sprouting out the top and a ball that glowed much like the moon. "Hey, I've been looking for that," Marcus cries. He had been looking for it for weeks. "Oh, I knew where it was. I put it there when I tidied your room. Remember, I tidied it because you sprained your ankle?" Rose replies, and Marcus answers, "Oh yeah, I remember you tidying, but I don't remember you putting the cap in the trunk." "What?" Rose shouts. "You asked me to put it in there," she continues. "Because you said you were too old for it now." Clearly not, Rose thought. Marcus shrugs it off and goes on to say, "I found this in the shed. It's kinda big, but it should keep us safe and help with the fire." With a smile, Marcus shows Rose a big piece of metal that she thought looked like some kind of power cell from the future. She also thought she wanted it, and by the look of the way Marcus was carrying it, thought it would be the best idea anyways. "What is it that?" she asks. "A flamethrower," he replies with a grin on his face, passing it to Rose. It had a bunch of buttons at the back and a big yellow warning sign that reads, "Warning, do not operate without authority and permission," in big bold red writing. "Oh, this looks like it could do some damage." Rose says joyfully, "Okay, we need lots of socks on, and we'll wear my dad's boots and coats, he has lots." Marcus says as if he's ticking off a checklist. "Should we take food?" he thinks out loud, rubbing his chin. Rose's ears prick up. "Should we eat before we go?" she says with a smile. Marcus's stomach grumbles. Guess that's a yes, Rose says, running past him, rushing out of the room. Marcus hears that she runs down 2 or 3 steps and then jumps the rest. Crashing and cracking jump into his ears. His eyes widen. He leaps to the door and peeks around, clinging to the frame. Looking down to see Rose standing up straight, dusting herself off, clearly trying to hide something. Looking left to right, whistling. What was that? Marcus cries out. Oh, nothing. Well, what are you hiding? He questions. With a guilty look of worry, Rose steps to one side and everything seemed to be ordinary. Relief fills her face. Night had fallen. The two had eaten, packed all that they would need, and with 10 pairs of socks on each go to grab some boots. Marcus goes to get a pair from the stand, and as soon as he tries, the floorboards creak and the whole stand collapsed right before his eyes. With more layers on than a gobstopper, Marcus and Rose can hardly move in all their coats, jumpers, gloves, and then John's coats and gloves on top. Pushing through the snow that was almost waist-high, looking like someone in a full-body cast. Marcus loses balance, spins around and falls on his back. The snow was so deep that Rose loses sight of him. After finding him and helping him back up with a grin on her face, Marcus does not look happy at all. He shakes the snow from his cap, pops it back on, and just stares down at the snow with his hands in his pockets. Rose's head moves back a little and the grin sinks off her face for a moment. Swinging her arms and most of her body because all the layers of her clothes made it so hard for her to move. Rose gives Marcus a whack on his arm, grinning once again. She says, "Come on, cheer up." And with a tone of duty she goes on. "We got a mission to do, and that's to go kick some darkness butt." The darkness, Marcus thought to himself. Although he hadn't thought about the darkness much in the past couple of hours. Thinking about it now actually raised his spirits. With Rose being there and Marcus clearly seeing she's ready for an adventure into the night, starts to feel lighter, and Rose sees a smile pop onto his face. Rose leads and heads around the back of the shed. Marcus turns his light ball cap on. Tonight was much darker than the last, but this didn't bother Marcus at all. In fact, with the cap lighting all around them, making a dome of light. A dome mainly made up of trees with the twisted trunks and bare branches, which monsters and all kinds of shadowy demons could pop out of at any moment, just made him feel brave, and just being ready for anything made him feel stronger.